Hey friends, this is Steve Guttenberg again, back with my friend Jeff in his Brooklyn apartment. And this is the part 2 of his record collection. I will link back to part 1 in the description box below this video. The first part was kind of like rock, new wave, right? That's
60s.
We call that 60s garage stuff. And now we're going to do reggae, dub, etc., etc. And Jeff, his knowledge is vast. So take it away, Jeff.
Well, with reggae, back when I started listening, a lot of the currency was in 7-inch 45s,
Okay.
which all the DJs would use to compete with one another, try to get exclusives. The albums came along a little later, so when we were talking about great reggae and great dub albums, you don't really start getting great dub albums and reggae albums until the early part of the 70s at the earliest. So one of them, though, Culture, 2/7's Clash, the 2/7's being 1977, and they thought there'd be apocalyptic goings on in Jamaica at the time, and that's where the title comes from. But it's just a tremendous album. It got a lot of notoriety, but everybody thought Culture might take the mantle from Bob Marley. And after this album, they kind of lost a lot of steam. But this one is just tremendous and speaks to the times, but still sounds very relevant today. It's kind of roots music.
See, I don't know that one, so I'm going to get...
Probably my favorite reggae album is Heart of the Congos. Story quickly is Lee Perry. It's probably as much to do with this album as the band the Congos, who would just sing. But the instrumentation, the sounds were just otherworldly and mixed with their beautiful harmonies and incredible songs. And it's just an amazing record that transcends the genre. I think this is the one reggae album that really transcends the genre. That you can stick right next to your favorite other records, and it sort of makes sense.
Okay.
Takes a few listens. It's not it's not.
And what year is it roughly?
This is also, I think, 76.
Okay. And
just Lee Perry and the Black Ark, the infamous studios that he had in Jamaica that he supposedly burned down years later. But this is the height of the Black Ark. So the sound, tremendous, and the songs and everything about it is otherworldly and beautiful.
Okay.
We were talking about this, Steve. Steve has heard this before. Jackie Me Too was on the infamous Studio One label, which was probably the premier reggae label in the 60s and 70s. And he was the keyboard player, and he would like the house band sound, but he also made his own records. And this is just one that guaranteed to be enjoyed by almost everyone. I think this was done in the early 70s, but if you get an original Studio One, the sound just pops, and which is not true of every Jamaican release. Their quality control at the pressing plants were not the best, but the Studio One always delivered.
Okay.
Getting into dub, one of the first dub albums was this sort of offbeat reggae artist, Keith Hudson. He kind of didn't go along with the times. He was kind of adopted by the punk cognoscente at the time, as being based on this album that I read that the Clash will listen to in their van, and Johnny Lydon would listen to. It was one of the earliest attempts.
Can you write down a little bit?
It was one of the earliest attempts at dub as an album rather than as a B-side to music. And dub, for those who aren't aware, is just sort of instrumental, where they take the songs and then sort of play with it, and the artistry is how it sounds afterwards, and what the effects they add, and how they use the echoes and the reverbs. But Keith was one of the first to make an album of it, and this one really resonated and still resonates today. It's kind of minimalist.
I have a dub question. So are those records, is the mixing done live? In other words, it's not just all done in post? In other words,
it's post. So yeah, I mean, a lot of them I'm not knowledgeable enough of the mechanics behind it, but a lot of times they would just take stock instrumentation from hits or non-hits or whole albums of an artist and just kind of weave over it.
Okay.
And Keith put out a lot of records. My favorite one is King Tubby Meets the Rockers Uptown. I think this is also 76, and it's everything if the dub is all about. King Tubby is considered the premier dub producer, and he had a sort of an elaborate sound where Keith Hudson might have been a little more minimal, but this album he just connects dead on, and it's just held the test of time. A lot of people that I play dub to, this is the one I pull out.
This would be a good way to get in.
This would be step one, and then my last album I'm going to show you would be step two.
Okay.
There was a prodigy under King Tubby, and his name was Scientist.
What's his real name?
I think it's Henry Laws. And King Tubby gets credited with a lot of stuff that the Scientist actually even did, while King Tubby was out doing something else, because he had a studio, and the Scientist was staying there doing a lot of the mixing.
Oh, okay.
And but this one, obviously, he got his name on it.
Right.
It's the Scientist rids the world of the evil curse of the vampires, and I know that the Corpse Rises, one of the songs, was used on video games. This is dub done over the top. If you like a dub done heavy, a lot of effects, a lot of atmosphere, late like a big hearty stew, the Scientist is for you. He made it his own. He wasn't delicate, but because of that, he created his own sound, which I think this is the premiere. He made a whole host of records. He fought the Space Invaders, and I don't know. But this one where he rids the world of the evil curse of the vampires, I think is the place to start with the Scientist. And it's the one where you see his cooking pot, a melting pot of sounds. And
So he made a lot of records under that name?
Yeah, but he also made a lot of records under the King Tubby's name. Which,
so some King Tubby records are more like Scientist, right?
Exactly, but he didn't have the profile that King Tubby's had. So the marketing perspective, they had to put King Tubby on a lot of things. Even they would even use it that it's at King Tubby's. Like King Tubby's had nothing to do with it. It was at his studios just to get the name King Tubby's. It was very saleable at the time. So that's those are my reggae and dub picks.
Okay, thanks so much. So signing off again from Jeff's place in Brooklyn. My name is Steve Guttenberg. I am the Audiophiliac. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And I like to do these videos on location where possible, sometimes at shows. So if you ever see me at a show, like I'm going to be at Expo in April, and or at the Headfi show in New York in February, say hi and maybe we'll make a video together. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.